I never intended to overhear that night, but sometimes life pushes you into truths you'd rather not confront. It was just before midnight when I returned from the store, holding a bag with a cheap bottle of wine and a couple of frozen dinners, the kind that scream, "This marriage is barely hanging on." As I walked through the door, her voice hit me like a thunderclap, raw and simmering with frustration. "I can't stand being with him, Sarah. I feel trapped. He's like a ghost, always there, but never really there." I froze, my breath catching in my chest. Her words cut through the air, sharp and unmistakable. I wasn't meant to hear them, but I did. And suddenly, everything made sense. A marriage starts as a dream, a whirlwind of passionate promises, late-night secrets, and laughter shared over the simplest things. Then it shifts into routine, quiet drives, distant glances, and the gradual realization that you've drifted apart. I met Claire when we were both in our early 20s, filled with ambition and dreams that felt just out of reach. Her eyes would light up when she looked at me, like I was the center of her universe. I thrived on that spark, but over time, it dimmed. Maybe it faded. She became more distant, and I became predictable. I worked my office job, came home, and did my best to be the man she needed, but it was never enough. Standing in that dark hallway, hearing her confess her disdain for our life together, felt like a crushing blow to my chest. I could have barged in, demanded answers, or begged for clarity, but I didn't. Instead, I quietly went upstairs, packed a bag, and slipped out without a word. No confrontation. No explanation. She wanted freedom. I let her have it. I drove to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town, the kind with chipped paint and the faint smell of hopelessness in the air. Sitting on the sagging bed, staring at the gaudy wallpaper, I couldn't help but wonder how long she had felt this way. How long had I been nothing more than a shadow, haunting the corners of her life? The next morning, my phone lit up with her calls, texts, and voicemails. "Where are you? We need to talk. Please come back." It almost made me laugh. The woman who couldn't stand to be near me was now frantic because I was gone. I let her sit with that. Let her experience the emptiness of losing someone who had always been there. 2 days later, she showed up at the motel. When I opened the door, she was a wreck, eyes hollow, hair tangled, voice trembling. "Why did you leave?" she whispered. I gave a bitter laugh. "Do you really need me to spell it out?" She swallowed hard. "You weren't supposed to hear that."
So that was it.
Her problem wasn't what she said, it was that I had overheard it. Something inside me snapped. I stepped aside, letting her in, but she stood there unwilling to sit. "Was it true?" I asked. Her hesitation was longer than I had expected. The silence between us said more than words ever could. For once, Claire, always the one with the comeback, had nothing to say. She fumbled, grasping at any excuse to keep me tethered to her. But I had already checked out, not just from the motel, but from her emotionally. "I was upset," she finally whispered. Frustrated.
I didn't mean it like that.
I shook my head. "You don't say something like that unless you really mean it." Tears welled in her eyes. "I love you," she began, but I cut her off. "Don't. I don't need to hear the but. I already know how this ends." She broke down then, sobbing uncontrollably, but I didn't reach for her. For years, I had been the one in pain, wondering if I was enough. Now, it was her turn to face the emptiness of a life without me. I never went back. The divorce was a messy affair, but my healing wasn't. Somewhere along the way, I learned the truth. Leaving was the easy part. The real challenge was staying in a place where you weren't wanted, in a love that had turned to dust. Claire tried reaching out a few times, hoping to rekindle what had long since been extinguished. But by then, I had found something far better, peace. And eventually, someone whose eyes made me feel like I was carrying the stars.